I'll start the meeting. I'm Mark Patterson, representing Robert Rodriguez and chair of the New York State Cemetery Board. I'll call the October meeting to order. I don't know if we have any particular open remarks in terms of the basis in which we're meeting. I think we're doing it in a regular order. So I've introduced myself. I want to go around the other board members.
I'm Tom Fuller, representing Dr. Mary Bassett for the Department of Health.
And I'm Jill Faber, representing Attorney General Letitia James.
Great. So we can, I think, just dive right in. We've distributed minutes of the previous meeting and posted them. Does anybody have any questions, corrections, suggestions about the minutes?
No questions.
No.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as distributed. Second? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Any additional comments on pending legislation or regulations?
No legislative report this month. There was nothing to report, and I have no update on any regulatory.
Okay.
I have a very minor comment on legislation, which is that one of the bills we're following, a town, I believe the town of Ellicottville, can't remember, wrote in in opposition to the bill. For what that's worth. I don't remember the bill number. It's the one sponsored by Senator Adabo and Assemblymember Hevesy, concerning, among other things, having an engineer for all grave openings.
Okay.
We just got that last week.
If there's no other questions of the board for Robert, I'll move to the division report. Lewis?
Okay, so staffing. We have more good news to report. We have one out of our two senior accountant vacancies in the company appears to have been filled. We have somebody scheduled to start in 2 weeks. 27th, so that's good news. The positions we're still seeking to fill are a part-time position for an accountant, a 23 accountant, to try to help train the staff and catch up on a bunch of other things. That position is pending interviews. We're hoping to finish that this week. We have had precisely no luck filling the administrative vacancy in Albany. I think realistically that's going to have to wait until that test is given again and we get a fresh list. We've made a pitch for why this should be a priority. I suspect we're not the only ones in the agency or in the state who are in this position. And so I strongly suspect this test will be given sooner rather than later, and we'll have a new list to play from. But we're, other than having no administrative support in our main office, which is kind of a significant thing, we're approaching being back at close to full staff.
Good news.
So that's our major thing. The certificates. Thank you to all but 2 of the cemeteries that have certificates for reporting on that. The other 2 cemeteries will be hearing from us for not responding. We're going to be reviewing the material on certificates of indebtedness, land share certificates over the next month or so. And it's hopefully, I say hopefully because the form itself is in process, but it should be part of our next cycle of annual updates on certificates, should be part of our next cycle of annual reporting. So that brings me to my third point, which is we're fast approaching annual report season. So please stay tuned. You'll be getting a mailing from us, and as in past years, we're not going to be sending out paper annual reports unless you ask us for a copy. They're available for printing on our website, or you can even better do it electronically. Alicia, are we still at about 40% electronic?
Yep, we've had about 1,400 reports filed as of January 1st. About 40% have been filed electronically, and it's really helpful.
Yeah, we would love to get that up over 50%, but that's somewhat aspirational. Last, I guess this goes in the division report. This is our second report on abandonments under our new regulations, which we shared with the board. I am not going to dwell on that because we did share it with the board in advance, but it is both posted on our website and was circulated. The one thing I want to check is we might have had a little bit of late breaking news on this one. Michael, Katina, you on? I'm not sure he's on, so I can give an update. Oh yeah, he's on. Michael, you're muted. Oh, you're unmuted now. Good. You want to give us an update on Bear Ridge, which has changed since the version I circulated? I know you made updates, but nobody has seen them because those are just on an internal document. You're unmuted, but we're still not hearing you. All right, I'll give the short version. The short version is that we had a successful special lot owners meeting, and they elected a new board. So for now, this cemetery, Bear Ridge in Niagara County, is not on the verge of abandonment, and we're going to work with the new board members to hopefully make sure it stays that way.
Can you just give a thumbnail on your report, abandonment report?
Sure. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 11, subtracting Bear Ridge cemeteries listed on the report at risk of abandonment, of which 3, Pleasant Valley, Union Cemetery of Hyde Park, and in all likelihood Warsaw Cemetery, are past the point of no return, and we are working on determination as to whether they are in fact abandoned. That's complicated by the fact that Warsaw we just found out about a couple weeks ago. The other 2 is complicated by the fact that we do not have all of the financial documents, so we haven't been able to determine whether or not they have sufficient funds for current operations. Absent a full picture, we can't do that. That's one of the things we'd have to do to make a determination on abandonment. They've been kind of hanging out there for a while, but that's because we're missing this information, which we've asked the outgoing trustees and the towns to provide us with. And some of it we've gotten, some of it has led to other questions. Carrie has taken lead on those 2. She's working through those. And on Warsaw, we need to begin writing that up again. Their special meeting was, I think, a couple weeks ago. I want to say 3rd week in September, something like that. On the other hand, ones where we have intervened and they're no longer imminently at risk of abandonment, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're batting over 500, although it's again, that's not really the right way of looking at it. Just because the cemetery is not at risk of abandonment now doesn't mean that its future is necessarily rosy. But we've been able to use our process of working with the lot owners, the boards and the towns to stave off abandonment in a significant number of cases. I don't know if that's the kind of overview you were looking for.
Or is there any questions?
No questions.
Anything emerging as lessons learned, or?
Finding random lot owners by social media is just as effective as our esteemed council predicted it would be. We've literally, 2 of the ones we've saved where we didn't expect to be able to save them were saved precisely because of random people seeing things on social media. That and the piece that we already knew, which is that the local officials are generally the people best placed to find people to step up to the plate, because we collectively know all of the people who serve on our cemeteries boards. At least one person in the division probably knows all of the active board members at all 1,700 cemeteries we regulate, but we don't know people outside that world. That's where we're really heavily reliant on the localities.
I'd say that's a pretty positive report. Anyone else have any questions of Louis on his overall report or on the required report on abandonment? And you do that quarterly, is that?
Yes, we'll be doing this again in January. But the other thing I've done, which is really not, it's really kind of inside baseball. But I moved our report to a SharePoint, to a shared document, so as these things come up, people can just update them right after they've had their meetings and add things directly to it. So I don't have to canvass. I still will, but we're not in a position of having to canvass the staff for at the last minute. And we have to do it at the last minute because we want to make sure we're current as of the end of the quarter. But we're not in a position of having to canvass the staff because they can keep updating, as Michael did with Bear Ridge. It's not in the version you guys are seeing, but it's an online version that we have internally. So that should make it easier to keep this thing current.
I didn't prep you for this, but you just realized, is there anything that you want to report on the investigators app and that, or is that something?
I can. I mean, I don't. The short answer is I don't know exactly where we are. Brendan Stanton worked very hard to design an application that captures pretty much everything an investigator and many of the things an accountant need to capture in the field that we can use on tablets and phones and not have to write things up back in the office. Tablets, phones, and computers. The approval for deployment and deployment of this was an impressively long process, but we now have all of the green lights we need and are working our way through deploying it. I think it's pretty much ready to be deployed. Brendan has actually used it already in real life, and we need to set up a time to come up with a training for the staff and dates for implementation. We were originally looking at November 1st. We're halfway to November through October already, so I'm not sure if that still makes sense. But we want to. On the one hand, I'm thinking what's going to happen is that we're going to start using it soon, but we're not really going to start. We're going to call day one of our collection of data through that January 1st, 2023. That way, we sort of have a neat dividing line for that which is in and that which is out, even though we'll have more stuff in before that.
Again, that's just progress that helps us when we're in the field, investigating in particular, but capturing data and recording and be able to provide the board with detailed information. So.
And I neglected to credit Ari Epstein, who I forget his new title, but who's also instrumental. Chief Data Officer for the department. Who's also he was instrumental in getting this thing done. And all the folks at ITS, most of whom I never even met.
Okay. Well, good. Anybody else have questions, Louis? I'm impressed that you wore pink for Breast Awareness Day. I forgot.
Absolutely.
So,
it's because I checked my email late last night and saw it.
I saw it. Okay, so let's move to vandalism report and then talk about vandalism applications. We have one.
The vandalism report is posted, available to the board for review. One thing I'd like to note on it is that of the $2 million for the 2022-23 appropriation, if we had to pay out all of our applications, meaning prior year's applications, what's on before the board today, and what's in the pipeline, we would have spent the $2 million plus about $1,000. It's unlikely that would happen before March 31st. That the winter time is coming and people aren't going to be working on it.
But we've obligated. We've obligated.
Yep.
But again, many of the applications we've just got the last month, this month, anything we get for the rest of the year, there's gonna be a split of the payments anyway, so we should be okay.
Is there a question about that? Well, that's important, you know, we get an appropriation, we want to get it out, we want to spend it on its purposes, so I appreciate the efforts of the staff and of the cemeterians, whoever's in taking advantage of the opportunity, so that's great, that's good news. Okay, so we have one application for available funds. It's a dangerous monument application from Oriskany Falls Cemetery in Oneida County in the amount of $37,284.20. Someone present that to the board, please.
Mike?
This is Mike Seelman. Oriskany Falls Cemetery has applied for a repair of 31 monuments. I went out to the cemetery and looked at the monuments, and all 31 appeared to create a hazardous condition. They get their two estimates to repair foundations and reset the monuments. The cemetery attempted to locate lot owners both by reviewing their own records and by putting an ad in the paper. They did not have records for any of the lot owners for any of the listed monuments. The most recent one was from 1928, and they did not get any response from the legal ad. So I recommended approval in the amount of $37,284.20.
Thank you, Mike, that's a pretty good, clean application. Council, do you have anything to add to that conversation?
Only to remind the board that if it does approve it, please make it subject to the availability of funds.
Any board members have any questions about the application?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the vandalism fund application from Oriskany Falls Cemetery in Oneida County in the amount of $37,284.20, subject to the availability of funds. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Application is approved. We have three other pieces of business. The first is Locust Valley Cemetery, a major renovation. Do we want to present that to the board?
Hi, this is Carrie McGovern with the New York State Cemetery Division. Locust Valley in Nassau County, New York is a 32-acre cemetery that was incorporated in 1917 and has burials actually dating to the 1700s. And they are applying, they have sent in a major renovation application for a new maintenance building, construction of a new maintenance building, which they definitely need. The cemetery estimates the cost is going to be $203,901, and it's going to be paid for with money from the cemetery's general fund, which had a balance of $8,061,689 at the end of March 31st, 2021. Okay. Right now they're using these two dilapidated storage bins, kind of cargo bins, as storage, and they do not offer the protection they need for their equipment. The cemetery was designed and landscaped by the Olmsted brothers, who were the sons of Frederick Law Olmsted, who designed Central Park and Prospect Park. And the cemetery is gorgeously landscaped, and they need to maintain that because that's their thing. So they desperately need these buildings for protection from the elements, for better service for their maintenance crew, which is, they have a large maintenance crew, of course, you'd think they would. So they're desperately in need of this structure. It's going to be 30 by 30, and it's going to be in back of the existing office, so it will not affect any of the visitors to the cemetery. It's actually out of state, out of sight, out of mind. So it would take about 6 months to complete, and they have everything necessary in order except for they need to get us stamped plans or drawings. But other than that, they're financially sound. They're able to afford this. They do need this, so I recommend this. Approval of this application.
The only thing I'll add to that is that the cemetery's attorney is also on their board, and the cemetery has provided information that it followed the related party process in choosing to go with him to do legal work necessary to get their local approvals. And that's included in the packet.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Louis. Council?
No comments from council, only to point out that on page 20 of the packet, there are drawings from the architect. But I agree with the division's recommendation that the board make its approval contingent on receiving stamped plans from the architect.
Does anybody have any questions? Any other board members have questions?
Yeah, I noticed in the packet that they were putting in a septic system. Are they going to be having a bathroom added to this building, or is there one already on site?
Carrie, did you hear that?
There's a bathroom in the office, and I don't believe that I was not told that they are adding a septic system. They are adding plumbing, though, and electricity. So perhaps they are. I actually don't have a good answer for that. But Peter Holgrove, I think, from the cemetery is on the call.
I am. Bill Simons, Bill Simons, Bill Simons. I'm not sure if there is a septic system there, to be honest with you. They do have an office which has bathrooms in it. Bill Simons is the superintendent. I don't think he can hear me right now. Bill? Let's see.
If he's on, he can unmute. Let's see a couple lines.
Bill, can you unmute? Bill? Can you unmute?
Okay, sorry about that.
Bill, the question came up with the building. Is there a septic system? Are there bathroom inside the building? Or is it just storage?
There's no bathroom in the building.
Are they putting in a septic system?
I was just curious.
Yeah, there's gonna be one sink and it's hooked up to our old septic system.
Okay, so that's not a part of the project.
They're building a new cesspool also. That's part of it. It's on the plan.
Okay.
In that new building, there's no bathroom.
I have no other questions.
Okay, so I think you've answered our questions. Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you for your attention to considering our application as stated by. It is desperately needed. It is an eyesore, and this will be really great for the cemetery at this point. Thank you.
Well, we're glad they're keeping it everything up to snuff. So I'll make a motion to approve the application of Locust Valley Cemetery for council, is there anything else we need to add to this?
Subject to the receipt of stamped plans from the architect.
Did I already do that?
You did.
I did, so I guess just take the vote. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
I think the motion was seconded and carried. Okay. Next application is South Trenton Cemetery, a land sale.
This is Mike Seelman again. South Trenton Cemetery is a 1-acre cemetery in Oneida County. And they have a 5.2 acre parcel that they acquired in 1982. It is not contiguous to the existing cemetery, but it is across the road, probably a couple hundred yards up the road and across from the cemetery. Their board met and determined that they were not in need of this property and would not be developing it. And they contacted us to let us know that they intended to sell it. Since their first contact, they had an appraisal and they got a buyer. The sale price is the appraised price of $23,000. The purchaser intends to build a residential house on the property. What else? The cemetery is aware that any proceeds from the sale have to be deposited in the permanent maintenance fund. And according to Associate Accountant Chris Costco's calculations, the net proceeds that will be deposited after expenses will be $17,600. And I've recommended approval of this land sale.
Another fine presentation by Mike Stillman. Anybody have any questions? Do you have anything to add to this, Council?
No comments from council.
We should have Mike do all the presentations today.
That's very thorough. Appreciate his orderly and thoughtful presentation. So I'll make a recommendation, if there's no other questions, to approve the application of South Trenton Cemetery for the sale of land. Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
The application is approved. Lastly, we have an application from Ferncliff Cemetery for some additional niches.
Sorry, that's me. So Ferncliff Cemetery is retrofitting one of its mausoleum buildings to include glass front niches. There's unused space in like a foyer type area, an open atrium that they're going to be adding glass front niches to. It's about 1,000 of them. They are not going to interfere with anybody else who's there. Glass front niches are a very desirable product. They command a premium price, and aesthetically, obviously, it's subjective. But in my view, they're going to brighten the area significantly because they're lit on the inside and they're metal and glass, so they just sort of radiate light as well as providing spaces for people to put urns and because they're glass fronted, people like to put in like little knickknacks and memorabilia and stuff that they don't get to do in any other type of product. It's all the money's coming out of their general fund. Vinny's analysis shows they're going to think they're projecting 4 times the cost of the project, Franklin obviously has got the general funds to be able to do it. The only wrinkle I'll add is that included in the packet are a sketch from an architectural firm saying not for construction, showing the location of the where the niches are going to be added. I assumed because it said not for construction and because they spent a not insignificant sum on the architect, that there would, subsequent to that, be an actual construction set of drawings, or at least a construction drawing stamped by the architect. And so initially I made a recommendation of approval conditioned on receiving stamped plans. The cemetery says they do not anticipate getting anything else from the architect, and this is not the type of, it's fairly obvious, this is not the type of project that would require any local approvals. It's akin to, pardon the analogy, it's akin to installing built-in bookcases in your house more than doing actual construction. So it's not the type of project where one would normally expect an architect. So the cemetery is reporting that they're not going to have a set of stamped plans, and the only reason they would go get one is because we're asking them to. I don't see the need. Again, if there's no local requirement for any kind of filings, I don't see why they would need to have architectural drawings. But I would be willing for the board to change our recommendation to eliminate that condition. This is something that came up late last night, or I would have raised it earlier.
So just to clarify, the drawings attached at page 26 and thereafter were not prepared by the architect for this project. and that sounds true, based upon what you were just saying. And so, I mean, in my most limited experience of everyone here, the board has routinely reviewed prefabricated column area projects in which an architect or engineer was not retained on the notion that these were prefabricated, and someone looked at this when that prefabricated structure was first come up with. So go ahead.
The last time we saw something like this, if I remember correctly, was Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, which also retrofitted a existing mausoleum with glass front. I don't believe they had any architectural plans for that. And while obviously the town of Greenburgh and the city of New York aren't the same place, generally the city is stricter on filings than outside of the city.
Okay. Well, entertain any discussion by the board on this matter?
Louis, and apologies if I missed it again. The division's recommendation also makes would have the board approve this subject to the 3 days.
Correct. Correct. The notice is that the notices are all properly posted, properly worded, but they expire Friday. So our approval will be contingent on them not. The cemetery has reported they haven't received any negative feedback until now. So our recommendation is that the approval be contingent on them not getting any negative feedback in the next 3 days, and which means realistically they wouldn't be able to start till next week, but I don't think they're starting this week anyway, no matter what we do.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, so, to figure this right, I'll make a motion to approve the application of Ferncliff Cemetery for additional niches not subject to receipt of stamped architectural drawings. Maybe I just say that approve it, I said it. And under the condition that they don't receive additional or any negative comments in the next 3 days that would require us to review it again. So is that sufficient? A second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye?
The only thing I'll add to this one is this is.
And then after we
No, it's more of a division. I'm more adding this to the division report, is that this kind of thing, any cemetery that has a mausoleum and money should really be thinking about doing this, because it's a very profitable product, and there's almost always, you should pardon the expression, dead space in a mausoleum where you can add these things.
Thanks.
So we would encourage them to do it. Do this kind of thing.
Good. I was just teasing you. Okay, so we have no other business before us. Are we gonna go to a?
I would ask that the board convene a meeting pursuant to Public Officers Law 108(3) for the purposes of receiving advice from counsel regarding possible litigation.
And I don't think we anticipate anything to report after that, correct?
We will not. We'll adjourn the meeting. We have a couple of things, public comment, whatever, so we won't come back out we will not take any action. So our next board meeting is scheduled for November 8th.
That is election day, by the way. I don't know if that poses any problems for people.
I might actually have a conflict with that. I'll know in the next couple of days. Is everyone's calendar good for November 9th instead?
No idea.
I'm okay for November 9th, yeah.
We have early voting in the state, or at least until somebody sues the state?
No, the issue is that my kid's school schedules conferences for election day.
I'm just adding value to the conversation. Okay, so we are planning on meeting November 8th, subject to change as always. We'll get back to you on that. And we do also have an opportunity for public comment for people who would like to comment on matters before the board or other matters that concern the board. Do we have anybody wishing to speak to the board? Online, is there anybody who wishes to speak to the board? On the ground, is there anybody that
Mr. Chairman, David Fleming from the New York State Association of Cemeteries.
Yep.
I think Mr. Polishchuk's comments about these glass front niches are an important point, and I would respectfully request that the board consider additional delegation to the division of this type of a project. We're usually talking about buildings that are already constructed, that have space that's not utilized. These projects enhance the facilities and, you know, all the comment periods and that sort of thing. Not that I want to discourage board review, it's just that for the sense of the work that's being done, we're talking about prefabricated, pre-engineered units that are literally just put into place. And they have a significant financial return for the cemeteries for a much limited investment compared to
Arguably, it's within our delegated authority already because they are prefabricated and they are almost by definition not the cemetery's first columbarium, but it wasn't what we all had in mind when we did that. So it is worth considering them that way. We'd be all for it.
you think you're sort of reviewing a couple other things that might be subject to delegation? So again, when we delegate decision making to the division, we also then require regular reporting, so the board is informed. And that's up for the board to determine, but thank you for that. Any other comments, David?
No, I just, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just point out that I think some of that is, you know, part of that recommendation is the environment that we are in, that prices are changing. It's extremely difficult for our cemetery members to be able to lock in prices and get these projects done. It would give flexibility for within that 60-day comment period, not having to wait perhaps 3 additional weeks or 2 additional weeks, depending on when the next cemetery board meeting lands. So thank you for your consideration.
Glad you take that under consideration. We'll direct the division to present that back to the.
We could do that together when we present something on retort replacement in November.
Right. Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to address the board on any matters? Silent partners? There you go. Okay. So again, we will adjourn the meeting, and we will then, this will be a matter, we'll have a non-public implemented.
Is there a conference phone in here? Because if there's a conference phone in here, we should just call Jill from right here.
I don't see one.
Just use my cell.
There's one in my office too.
Yeah, it's.
Right. So we're going to decide, so she'll know what we're doing. What do we do?
Let me just take a quick look, see if it's hiding under
Do you want-
here. There used to be a phone here. Somebody seems to have taken it away.
Is it in your cabinet?
Cabinet? There's a cabinet?
So we will call you in your office, either from here or from another office.
Okay, great. I
Okay.
have my cell or my office phone, either one.
Okay.
And I have, I'll make a motion to adjourn the October meeting. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for attending. Look forward to seeing you in November.